The Catholic channel SiriusXM 129 presents Sounds from the Spires with Dr. Jennifer Pascual, music director of St. Patrick's Cathedral.
And you're listening to Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic channel of SiriusXM 129. And today I have a very special guest here, well, on Zoom practically, because we're still not in the studios during this pandemic time, but we're doing the safest way possible. And Richard has been a guest on our program many times, and it's always great to host him. Richard Clark from Holy Cross Cathedral in Boston, Massachusetts. How are you, Richard?
I'm doing very well. It's great to see you, even though the audience can't see us. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure, it's an honor, and it's an honor to talk to you and your wonderful audience.
It's likewise, always great to have you. And I can see you, the last time you did this interview was in the studio, and I think you've been to the studio a couple of times, but now it's great to see your office via Zoom. I know that our listeners can't see it, but he's got this huge office, which you said used to be a sacristy?
It was a sacristy. It doubles as the choir room. So it's large enough to fit a choir of about 50.
Wow.
That's close together. And what's nice is I have the piano faced in such a way that everyone's forced to look at three beautiful stained glass windows, which depict the crucifixion, the scourging at the pillar, and then also the resurrection with Mary at the tomb weeping and Jesus about to console her. It's an incredible room, very blessed to be here. And it sounds great. It's a great room to rehearse in.
Very nice. And are you on a bottom level? Because I see a pillar behind you. Are you below ground level?
I am. I am very much, yeah. Yeah, if I need to get to the choir loft to play the organ, I need taxi fare to get around the mile down the road or so to the front of the cathedral to get upstairs. So it's a long way, but I'm blessed to be here.
Right. And so your office then is on one end of the cathedral and the choir loft is on the other end of the city block?
Pretty much, yep. Oh, I forget my music once in a while, and I get up to the organ console, and then I have to do the sprint, the half-mile sprint back.
Right, that's painful. We used to have our office in the tower of St. Patrick's, and then they moved us to the other end into the basement. So I feel your pain.
Yeah, very similar circumstance. Yes. Right.
Now, Richard, how long have you been at Holy Cross now?
It's been a little more than 3 years.
3 years already.
Yeah. It's been an eventful 3 years.
Yeah, and most of that 3 years you've spent, or at least half of it, during a pandemic, huh?
Yeah, half of it during that. The first 9 months or so under renovation. Then we opened up. The renovation opened up for Holy Week of 2019. Then we had to dedicate the altar right before Palm Sunday, which was fun, but as if we weren't busy enough. And less than a year, and then the pandemic hit. So we've been busy. And interestingly, the cathedral parish is growing. We did manage pretty well during the pandemic, and our numbers in attendance are actually better now than they were, pre-pandemic.
Wow.
I think there's a lot of factors due to that. Part of it's just continuing the work we started, and the attention we gave, I think, during. And my choir is bigger than it was pre-pandemic. So
that's fabulous.
It's very interesting. We're blessed. There's always unexpected blessings in hardship.
Right. And so you say your choir is bigger now. During the pandemic, you were reduced in number, correct?
Yes, reduced to one cantor. Which I know you're familiar with.
Yes.
For quite a while. It was a joy doing the Chrism Mass and the presbyteral ordination of priests in August of 2020 with one singer. And you have to adapt, and you have to create beauty and regardless, and that's our job. That's our job to do that.
Right.
We were able to expand to 4 singers, and I had set up quite a number of protocols with the Archdiocese to allow parishes and everyone to do that between masks and distancing, rehearsal protocols. A lot of choir directors have gotten very familiar with this. Anyone who deals with schools, especially, very similar circumstances.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the genesis of this project, that we had 4 singers. We had our 4 section leaders, and we were able to start working together with the 4 of us. And it's really an approach with chamber music. A chamber approach, even though we have all these choral pieces, normally you'd have maybe 12, 24 singers on it. It developed a different kind of style and a different kind of sound. And we had a very good chemistry going. And even though we have the rest of the volunteer singers back, who are also quite good and very sharp readers, it was something we were able to build on from there and continue that joy that we were able to keep going.
Right. We're talking about From the Bell Tower, which is a recent recording that is now released, right, Richard?
Yeah, it's been available. The official release date was All Saints Day, November 1st.
Okay.
It's been available on iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, pretty much any digital format you can find. It's there. Just you Google From the Bell Tower, the Boston Cathedral Singers. The name was very generic. I hadn't put a lot of thought into it. I said, well, it's not the Cathedral Choir. It's not the Archdiocesan Festival Choir. It's the Boston Cathedral Singers, and the name stuck.
Yeah.
And to kind of differentiate.
So, yeah, From the Bell Tower. And you mentioned it's available on digital platforms. Is it also available on hard disks for the folks who like to have something in their hands?
It is not yet. If you get in touch with me, I can manage that. But at the moment, it's usually a money-losing prospect.
Right.
It's good to have if we get an additional. It may happen, but it will need some additional donation to finance that.
Yeah. So From the Bell Tower.
Very few people do that. I know. Yeah, I know. I just know a lot of management. They're just like, just don't even bother with that. But It could happen. It could still happen.
Yeah. Yeah, digital downloads are the way to go these days. I mean, I know some people still like to have that tactile disc in their hands, but most people have done away with their recordings, their libraries, and just have it in the palm of their hands.
We reminisce about the days of vinyl where you really had something in front of you.
That's right.
So.
Yeah. So let's take a listen now to a little bit of From the Bell Tower. Our guest today is Richard Clark here on Sounds from the Spires. He's the music director and organist at Holy Cross Cathedral in Boston. And this is the Boston Cathedral Singers. And we'll continue talking about this recording as we go along during the hour. But let's start with Alma Redemptoris Mater of Palestrina. And of course, Advent is coming up, so this is really appropriate. And you'll hear a little bit of the bells from the bell tower in Boston before the piece begins. And you just listened to the Alma Redemptoris Mater of Palestrina, and that is on the recording from the bell tower. And that's the Boston Cathedral Singers singing. And Richard Clark is our guest today. He is the music director and organist at Holy Cross in Boston. And this is available on Amazon, Spotify, iTunes, those download platforms. So Richard, great job. I had a chance to listen to this yesterday, and it's a wonderful recording. And I really admire the folks that have taken the time during the pandemic to actually do something productive, and something as bad as a pandemic has encouraged musicians to flourish and do creative things. So good for you. Congratulations.
Well, you take the opportunities where they are. I think, I appreciate that. Thank you. I think we didn't expect to record, and we didn't set out to record an album when we did this. It was more or less an artistic refuge for us. The location of the recordings were, say, in the bell tower. It was in a room that was off of the choir loft next to the organ, and it's in the tower where our bells are. And the bells have their own story too, because they're older than the building. They're actually from New Orleans.
Really?
And they were really sort of loot from the Civil War, sold up to Massachusetts to the Holy Trinity German Church, which was a few blocks down from here. That was a gorgeous church. That was closed, sadly, in 2008. But fortunately, the bells were restored and repurposed here. And they were about 2 tons.
Wow.
So they've traveled quite a bit. And the room we're in, it was one of those things where I was warming up in the middle of the presbyteral ordination because I was one of 2 musicians there. And I was singing the Litany of the Saints. I wanted to make sure I pronounced all the saints' names correctly.
Yes.
And I was warming up and I thought, wow, we got a record in here. This room's amazing. Because it's about, 3-4 stories high. It's incredibly resonant, wood everywhere. There's a very long, very high spiral staircase that goes way up. And I have a tremendous fear of heights, and I've stayed away from that. But anyway, so the room is very high. And so we started recording there, and it was conducive to being very far apart from each other and feeling the acoustic was like a warm embrace. You felt like you were next to each other, and you could breathe more easily, particularly with some of this repertoire where you can't stagger your breathing with one person on a part.
That's right.
This room made it a little easier. So it was an artistic refuge. I mean, these folks are very busy. Right now, they're back to being busy. They're booked. They're very high in demand singers. And everything's shut down, as you know. I mean, singers were off doing operas and recordings and other performances. So it was something we started doing every week. And we started to compile something and realized we have something here. So.
Right. Wow. Richard, how many bells are in the bell tower?
There are 5 bells in the tower. And the bells that you heard on the recording, I battled my fear of heights and climbed up the spiral staircase that went way up. I chickened out halfway through, came back down, went back up again with my recording gear to get as close as I could to record those, and we edited those in. So I have motivation sometimes to battle my fears.
How did you get to record those bells in the tower, Richard? Did you personally go up into the tower and stick a microphone underneath the bells? How did that work?
I did. I personally climbed up the staircase, the spiral stairs, and then there's a couple of ladders after that, and brought my recording gear up, and like I said, battled my fear of heights to do that.
And how many takes did it take you to get what you wanted?
Just a couple. Fortunately, there's a remote control. It looks like a car key. You click it, and there's a couple of automated settings that went off. So that made it a bit easier. Yeah,
that was the opportune time to do it because there was less traffic during the height of the pandemic, and so that's great.
We did a lot of these recordings right after the 11:30 Mass. There might be a piece, for example, we'd start learning it in the morning of rehearsal, sing it at Mass, and then go and do a couple of takes. So there was no traffic, and this is a major road. There used to be an elevated subway out there. This is a very wide major traffic. So at 12:30 or 12 o'clock, 12:30, 1 p.m. in the afternoon, you'd have all kinds of traffic noise. It got a little worse. We had to edit some things out and do some editing later on, but I don't think we could do it at that time, at this point.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. It's noisy now everywhere, which is a good thing. It's a good problem.
Yeah. First class problem.
We're talking with Richard Clark, who is the music director at Holy Cross Cathedral in Boston, and we're talking about the CD From the Bell Tower. Great recording, and you can get that on Amazon, iTunes, Spotify, those download platforms. And we'll listen to some of his music as well throughout the hour. But let's start by listening to his Adoro te devote. Before we play it, Richard, can you tell us a little bit of the background behind these pieces that you wrote, the Eucharistic acclamations?
Sure. There's 4 Eucharistic Motets. Cardinal O'Malley had begun an initiative in 2019, the Year of the Eucharist. And that began, and so it's connected with that, and it's an inspiration from that. The Year of the Eucharist got extended a bit because of the pandemic. And of course, the USCCB is going to be doing something, going to begin an initiative on the Eucharist as well. And so it was part of inspiration. The other part of the inspiration was spending more time with these 4 singers, and they really shifted how I started writing choral music. Working with just the 4 of them. Michael González has changed how I write for tenors, really has, and they all have. Barbara Hill, she has a Grammy, she's won for other things. Jaime Korkos, I've worked for many years, about 12 years, has sung with operas all over the place. And baritone, Taras Leschishin is another fabulous musician, incredible reader, and again, they all have such different voices. So each of those pieces actually draws out elements of their voices. And we have done them with larger choral groups since. But between the artists that I was working with, that camaraderie and that chemistry we had, and the meditation on the Eucharist. And part of that too is I was fortunate, the being here every day live streaming daily Mass, I got to be in the presence of the Eucharist every day when others did not. I get to receive the Eucharist when others did not. And I just hope that has some impact after a while.
Yeah, wonderful. So let's take a listen now to Adoro te devote, and that's composed by and recorded by our guest today, Richard Clark, who is the music director and organist at Holy Cross Cathedral, and it is the Boston Cathedral Singers on the recording From the Bell Tower. And you just listened to Lo How a Rose, as it's almost Advent and Christmas season. And just before the break, we listened to the Adoro te devote of Richard Clark, who is our guest today here on Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic channel of SiriusXM 129. He is the music director and organist at the Holy Cross Cathedral in Boston, and that is the Boston Cathedral Singers that you just heard. And that is on the recording from the Bell Tower, available on Amazon.com, iTunes, Spotify, those downloading platforms.
And a whole lot more.
And a whole lot more.
You'll find it all over the place.
Oh, good. Good to know.
Enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're listening to Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic channel of SiriusXM 129. And I am Dr. Jennifer Pascual, your host. And so you had to hone in on your compositional techniques for 4 people as opposed to a big choir. What does that entail in your mind then if you have to cater to 4 people?
Oh, interesting. I think it was almost easy because they were an inspiration. Of course, you don't have any divisi. You can't say, I really need a 5th voice in here. I've got to have a 5th voice. Not going to, but that's fine. That's fine. That's okay. That's, whenever there's limitations, there's always more inspiration. Uh-huh. So that's fine. But there were aspects, for example, on O Sacrum Convivium, I really do feature each of their voices individually, even though it's a unit. Really, that one especially, I feature aspects. I draw them out individually. Right. So that was a little bit more of the thought. Yeah. And like I said, we have sung this with the larger choirs too. So I feel it's been a positive influence and has kind of changed. I was kind of taking a little shift in my choral approach. Right.
Richard, are these pieces published?
We're working on that right now. We're working on that. That's in process. These things take a little time.
Right.
They will be published. Uh-huh. They will be. Where will be figured out relatively soon, we hope.
Okay. Well, good for you.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you do great work up there in Boston. You're an inspiration to many.
I'm trying. Thank you. It means a lot coming from you.
Oh, no. He's in Boston, but always a New Yorker at heart, right?
Oh, yeah.
A Yankee fan at that.
Don't get me going because I'm going to slip right back into my Long Island accent really fast. That could happen in a second, real fast.
Yeah, Richard, I know that you've been on the show many times, but you're originally from Long Island. Mm-hmm. And then did you go directly from New York to Boston? Or where were you right before Boston?
Yeah, I was actually born in Greenwich Village. I have a lot of family from Greenwich Village, so I have a lot of history there. I actually went to NYU for a couple of years. I was studying chemistry, of all things.
Oh, wow.
I started studying with a fantastic teacher, Justin Delajoyo, who's Norman's son.
Oh, okay.
Brilliant composer, absolutely brilliant man. Did some compositional study with him, and I'd always had in the back of my head, if this is not working out, I'm going to go to the Berklee College of Music. Now, Berklee College of Music in Boston is a very eclectic school, and while I've had a lot of classical background, I've had a very broad background in pop music, jazz, and a lot of different genres. So, and all of them find their way into my writing, one way or the other. Yeah. So yeah, I went up to Boston, started working at St. Cecilia Parish, which was right next to the Berklee College of Music. I was 20 years old. It was 75 feet from my dorm room, so I like to say I went nowhere in my career for almost 30 years. And then the cathedral is a mile down the road, 1.1 miles down the road, so now I can say I have not gone very far in my career. So. Yeah, I've been here. It's not what I ever intended. If you told me when I went to Berklee in 1989 that I would be the director of a cathedral 29 years later, 30 years later, I would say you're crazy. But it has a way of drawing you in.
Well, we're glad you're a cathedral musician. I mean, you would have been a great chemist as well, but you have definitely blessed the church in the United States.
I don't think so. No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we put that aside.
Yeah. Richard Clark is our guest. He's the music director at Holy Cross Cathedral in Boston, and he has many compositions as well. So it's great to know that you have all of these works in there. Some of them are published and some of them are in progress, but we've been listening to From the Bell Tower, and we'll continue to listen to some of those pieces throughout the hour. Another one we have here is Seek the Lord. Tell us about this piece that you composed.
Yeah, I wrote that in 2011. It was one of the readings in the lectionary that week, and I just took that. And it's just been a fun piece that we've enjoyed doing. So I wrote that while I was at St. Cecilia Parish, and it was kind of a mainstay in our repertoire there and has moved over here. So that piece is published. It's available at RJC Cecilia Music. You can Google that. My website, rjcceciliamusic.com.
Right. Okay. So let's take a listen to that now. This is Seek the Lord. And you just listened to some bells, more of those bells at the spire at Holy Cross Cathedral in Boston. And just before the break, we listened to Richard's Seek the Lord. We're speaking with Richard Clark, the music director and organist at Holy Cross Cathedral in Boston. And from the bell tower is the recording we are listening to snippets from, and that is available on all the download platforms that you can get online. And you're listening to Sounds from the Spires on Catholic Channel of SiriusXM 129. I'm Dr. Jennifer Pascual, your host. And so now, Richard, you are beyond the four singers, back into full swing with your liturgies. How many people do you have in the choir now?
Yeah, it's been around 20 per week, and that's mostly volunteer, but the audition process is handing them the introit. Here's the introit we just sang. Can you read through this? Some sight reading and some polyphony. So we're singing a good deal of polyphony and chant, and of course new music as well. So the ability to sight read quickly is a need, and the ability to sing with a warm, relatively straight tone when called upon, being able to blend how that voice is going to blend. And I've been blessed with some people coming out of the woodwork who really have been wonderful to be with us. So we've had some new people, and we've had some old friends, new and old.
Ah, great. How often do you rehearse?
Lately, things shifted with the pandemic, where we have the opportunity to have a fairly lengthy rehearsal before the Mass. I used to have a midweek rehearsal. With my own complications, 4 kids in 4 schools, and 3 different schools. My son sings with the St. Paul Choir School, and that schedule's crazy. So my wife and I are running around like crazy, picking kids up and coordinating. So it's interesting. But I always have a rehearsal plan. We have things coming up. We've always look a few weeks out, always spend time to look at some things a few weeks out before they come up.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how you do it with 4 children and run a cathedral program. It's hard enough with one.
It's my wife, Kara. I can't do what I do without her. She's amazing, and she works her tail off as well. And so supportive. She's a musician as well, but also supportive of the church. And I could not possibly function without her. So deeply grateful every day.
You mentioned one of your children is in the St. Paul's school. Are all 4 of your children into music?
It seems so, yeah. My second son is probably going to begin next year. He's going into 3rd grade next year, and they started 3rd grade. This way, by 5th grade, they've got enough training to become choristers. My oldest daughter, Juliana, has a beautiful voice. She sings with the Handel and Haydn Society in Boston, and a lot of musical things. And my 5-year-old is matching pitch pretty well. So
good.
They're both cursed with the genes from both sides. We don't push, and that's the thing is, I just don't push it because it's gotta be joyful. Nothing brings me greater joy than if they're having joy doing something.
Amen.
Yeah.
Good words from a good dad.
I'm trying.
Richard, we have another piece here by Kevin Allen, the Ave Maria. Could you tell us a little bit about Kevin?
Kevin is such an amazing composer, great guy. He's the director of music, the choir master at the Monastery of the Holy Cross. There's a nice connection there. We have the Cathedral of the Holy Cross and the Monastery of the Holy Cross. Very prolific composer. Music is very embedded in the Renaissance polyphony style, but it certainly is modern and is definitely his sound. So it's a bit of a mix of Josquin and I don't know who else to think of modern time, but it's definitely his own voice. He has his own voice, his own style, and it's just gorgeous stuff. So this piece I actually was able to conduct in 2019. It was actually sung at the Sacred Music Symposium in Los Angeles, and it was actually done at a Mass in the Extraordinary Form, which I conducted along with Alfred Calabrese and was collaborating with Jeff Ostrowski. And we premiered the piece there, and the singers, they just loved it. They just took to that piece and loved that piece, and it's taken off here. We've just really enjoyed it.
Nice. So let's take a listen now to the Ave Maria by Kevin Allen. And you just listened to the Ave Maria of Kevin Allen, and that is on the recording from the Bell Tower, sung by the Boston Cathedral Singers. And Richard Clark is the director. He is the organist and music director at Holy Cross Cathedral in Boston. And you can get that from all the downloading platforms that you get your music from. And
I think it's 36 or 37 platforms.
Really?
30 of them I've never heard of. But that doesn't mean anything because I haven't heard of them.
Yeah. So how did you get them all on there if you've never heard of them?
It's the magic of the internet, the magic of distributing through CD Baby, which is kind of one of the industry standards.
Yeah. Amazing. Good to know. That's all beyond me. But that's great that you're able to get it out there and people can listen to it. That's from the Bell Tower. We've been talking about that during this hour, and some really great music, some of Richard's own and of other composers, living and deceased. So go ahead and check that out, from the Bell Tower. And what other projects do you have? I know you're always constantly composing and always have something going on in your mind that is creative. What's next for you, Richard?
Hopefully, I'll be in Paris in 2022 in April. I composed a Te Deum, 4 movements for orchestra, soloists, and choir. It was, as you can imagine, it was canceled in 2020. It was supposed to be premiered in 2020. So there's that. It'll be right on the heels of Holy Week, so we'll be tired. Easter Sunday, we'll be flying out Easter Sunday night with a rehearsal on Monday. We're going to be flying on adrenaline, bringing a few of my soloists out there with us and a few singers. I've also been collaborating with, in the non-sacred world, but collaborating with poet Ethelbert Miller. You did play his, I think one of the last times I was on the show, he wrote a poem about Oscar Romero, and around the time of his canonization, we played that. Collaborated on a couple of his other poems, and that's, it's a real joy to, whether you're dealing with scripture or you're dealing with someone else's words. You have to live with their words almost longer than they did when they wrote them, and it's a fascinating experience. So that's been interesting. Oddly enough, I didn't compose much during the biggest part of the shutdown, and people ask me, "Wow, you've got all this time. Are you composing a lot?" And like, first of all, I don't have a lot of time, but relatively time. But actually, no. Strangely, I composed very, very little for a good deal of 2020, and I think that has a lot to do with, to give something out, you have to absorb things, and one has to take it in. I was taking in the experience and taking in what the whole world was going through, and again, taking in my experience of, wow, how lucky am I get to do music, and I get to be in front of the Eucharist when others don't. And things really exploded when I started working with these 4 wonderful singers. It just, then 2021's been a very busy year. I'm working on the 4 Marian antiphons, so I've composed a couple of those so far. So that'll be kind of a similar project to the 4 Eucharistic Motets.
Yeah, fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's listen to one more of Richard's. This is the Ave Verum Corpus on the recording from the Bell Tower.
Oh
And you just listened to the Ave Verum Corpus of Richard Clark. And he is our guest today here on Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic Channel, SiriusXM 129. And that is from the recording from the Bell Tower, just released on All Saints' Day. And that is the Boston Cathedral Singers on that recording. Wonderful quartet and wonderful use of the pandemic time to have recorded these pieces in a space of your cathedral that most people have not seen.
No, they haven't. We had a couple of videos, and we kind of made the room famous. I mean, it doesn't look great. I mean, there's this big, firebox, this big red firebox, and it's a mechanical room, but it's got a lot of wood. There's a few photos out there and a couple of videos of us in there. And I had a few people who passed by, and they're like, "Wow, this is where they do this recording." It's like, oh, that's cool. It's a funny thing. I mean, the acoustic in the cathedral itself is extraordinary.
Yeah.
Nothing but stone and marble and about 5 seconds of reverb in there. But this really helped us. Again, it was an artistic refuge at a time that we needed it. And gave birth to some things, and hopefully we'll continue to.
Sure. Hey, Richard, when are you going to do an organ recording?
That's a good question. I've had a few things floating around. I've done a few things again with our friend Rich Kelly, and one of our pieces is being published soon with GIA Publications, Fearfully and Wonderfully Made. We're waiting for that to come out. We have a recording from St. Cecilia, and we have a recording at the cathedral of that. That's soon to come, I think. Again, it's sort of those. I've got to sort of meditate on what I'd like to present. And what we want to do. But the organ has been a joy in the acoustic. It's transformed the instrument, and now it makes sense what Mr. Hastings decided to do in 1875.
Yes.
Make a lot more sense when we got rid of a sea of carpeting. The carpeting was just a dreadful thing. So I've been very blessed, and trying to take the ball and run with it. Get things done, and I've been blessed to have a lot of support from the rector, Monsignor Kevin O'Leary, and a lot of support from Cardinal O'Malley, and that's a rare thing. I'm going to enjoy it while I got it.
Yeah,
and we're going to get some things done while it's happening, and build and develop relationships. Everything's about relationships.
Exactly. Amen. It's not just about the music, right? It's not all
apparently
about.
Apparently not. No. It's really we're here to affect people's lives and transform people and give them transcendence. People, boy, do they need transcendence now more than ever.
Right.
They really do.
Yeah. Music is just a vehicle, but our work, it comes from us, and it is the relationships that make everything happen. If those relationships weren't there, it wouldn't work, and our music programs would not thrive. So it's really important to be able to have that musician-clergy relationship, make it solid and similar mission, and you're on the same page. So that's...
I mean, it's a prayer, and it has to be prayer, and that joy... I think we're having a lot of fun, which is good, but that joy is going to translate, because you don't know how you're going to affect people when they walk in those doors.
Exactly.
A lot of folks have their own burdens and their own troubles, and if you can affect people in ways you may never know, and it's just a prayer, and you just happen to do it through music. That's all.
Amen. Yeah, and the fact that you have so many great things happening now in Boston. There were great things there before you, but now you're just taking the ball and running with it, and it's blossoming, and so that's a great tribute to you and to your musicians and your clergy there, that things are looking up, and you're coming out of this pandemic great and doing everything that you did, and even better and bigger now than before. So congratulations to all the work you do. You're inspiration to many throughout the United States, and definitely we'll have you again, because I know you're always composing, you're always doing something. So we'll have you definitely back again. But we've been listening to From the Bell Tower. That's a recording that you can download on 36 different digital platforms, apparently. Yeah. And that's the Boston Cathedral Singers. And Richard Clark is the music director and organist at Holy Cross Cathedral. And he is the producer and conductor on this recording that you also get a chance to listen to. And there are 16 different tracks, wonderful stuff. A lot of it is... it's all professional, of course. They're all professional musicians, but some of these selections are Richard's, and some of them are Renaissance, and some of them are by living composers. So check it out. And Richard, it's been great to have you again. We'll definitely have you again in the future. Best of luck to you as we head into the holidays, into Advent, into Christmas, and just wish you the best.
Thank you, and you're a treasure and an inspiration to all of us too. We're so blessed to have you where you are, and we all look up to you, so thank you so much. Thank you to your audience for listening too.
Oh, well, thank you, Richard. Thanks to Richard, thanks to Robert for editing, and we'll finish out the hour by listening to Richard's How Can I Keep From Singing, which is a great theme.
Well, it's my arrangement, the Robert Lowry, but My arrangement of it, yes.
Fabulous. How can I keep from singing? Thank you, Richard, and hope to see you soon in person.
I hope so too.
Everybody have a great week, and stay tuned next week for Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic channel of SiriusXM 129.